There we go. Welcome again, everybody. My name is Gabriela Malavi. I'm the programs manager here at the Highline, and we're so excited to invite you all to learn about our new pilot program called Coal for Ideas. Go ahead, Asima.
Hi, everyone. My name is Asima Jansfeld, and I'm the Chief Program and Engagement Officer here at the Highline. Really excited to be launching this initiative and that so many of you are joining us today to hear more. You'll be hearing from a few of us throughout this session, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of an overview of what we'll be covering today. So we'll do a little bit about just the Highline, what our mission is, talk a little bit about our audience, what we currently do on the Highline in terms of programs, and then I'll turn it over to Gabby to give you more details on this call for ideas process, including submission considerations and process, what the Highline will and will not provide. And then we'll turn it over to Itai to speak a little bit about what the various spaces are that you can be considering for your proposal. And then we'll definitely be leaving good time for question and answer at the end. As you just heard us set up, we are recording this session and we will be posting the video on YouTube. So you can take notes, but you'll also have the chance to review this in the future if you need to. We'll be making that public to everyone else who might not be able to have joined today as well.
And just another reminder for housekeeping really quickly, Asima, just to keep yourself on mute throughout the presentation. And again, use the chat if you have anything that you want to put in there or wait to the FAQ section. Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Gabby.
Mhm.
Okay, so first, who are we? Who is the Highline? So as we like to consider ourselves both a nonprofit organization and a public park on the west side of Manhattan. And through our work with communities on and off the Highline, we are devoted to reimagining public spaces to create connected, healthy neighborhoods and cities. Of course, we are built on a historic elevated rail line, and we have always intended that we are more than a park. You can walk through our gardens, of course, you can view our art, but we also encourage people to come be on the park to experience a performance, to enjoy food and beverage, or to connect with your friends and neighbors, all while you're enjoying being three stories up in the sky over New York City. We also like to emphasize that 100% of our budget does come through donations every single year, but we are technically a city park. We are a public park in the city of New York, and we have a license agreement with New York City Parks. So the next slide will give you a little information on our mission and values. So we like to consider ourselves as reimagining the role public spaces can have in creating connected, healthy neighborhoods and cities. So we do that through 4 primary pathways: possibility, place, people, and experience. So we're looking to think and enact bold ideas. We want to maintain, of course, and evolve the public park that you enjoy today. We want to collaborate with our supporters, community, and staff to improve our city and neighborhood. And of course, we want to do that by always providing extraordinary experiences. So I want you to keep this in mind. We'll be coming back to this in terms of what we're looking for through this call for ideas. And many of us know that the Highline is a well-loved tourist destination. In 2019, we had over 8 million visitors. Last year, I think we topped out over 5 million. So it's not a problem for us to get people to be interested in coming to visit. So when we talk about programming, what we actually actively curate in terms of personal experiences for connection on the park, we talk about our priority populations. So for us, this is really about our local residents, our students, our businesses, and our workers. And it's also about New York City at large. So in particular, we're thinking about how our events are ones that help our lower income and affordable housing neighbors feel like they belong on the Highline. We're looking to have our BIPOC youth and older adults in particular also feel like they belong and that they have a place on the Highline through our programs and events. And wherever we can, we'd like to support small businesses, particularly ones that are BIPOC and women owned. So what do we do currently? Currently, we have a program and engagement team at the Highline that works throughout the year to curate a set of events that create this feeling of belonging and prioritize our populations in Chelsea and beyond. So we have right now, 4 workshops that we hold every summer for interactive creative placemaking and art making with our younger youth throughout the city. We offer wellness classes such as Tai Chi, senior stretch, other aimed at older adults, but we like them to be intergenerational. So we really encourage people of all ages to participate in those. We have some select community programs where we're already working with organizations such as Hudson Guild and Generations Project to curate events on the High Line for special events like Pride, or if there is a performance that Hudson Guild would like to put on, we sometimes allow them to use the High Line as a stage for that. We have what you see here, our extremely popular Teen Night, which is designed, curated, and implemented by Highline teen staff that work alongside us to create a really special night for our teens throughout the community. Our most well-attended event is Ariba. Those are 2 that are held every summer twice. Those are our large salsa dancing parties that we hold on the High Line. It's really a special time to be on the High Line. If you haven't been, we encourage you to check it out this year for sure. And throughout the year, our curatorial department is working to launch special art performances as well to activate the High Line.
Mm-hmm.
So these are some examples to inspire you of things that we are doing now or have done in the past. And again, these are events where we have either developed, implemented, executed the programs ourselves with our program staff, or they are ones in which we have partnered with people in our community. So we just wanted to give you some visuals to show what it can look like to activate the High Line. There are ones where there are communal gatherings, where you have spaces for conversation, where you will have people connecting, where there's creative art making, where there's connection to the horticulture and the art that is on the High Line that you see today. We offer, we want to offer seats. We want to offer ways for people to be comfortable walking, to be seated, to experience this at all levels of abilities as well. We also want to take advantage of the linear experience of the High Line where possible. So where can you actually proceed along the High Line is something that's of interest to us in future events as well. And so what now? At this point, we're really thinking about what is the capacity of our team and how do we leverage the experience, the audiences of our partners throughout the city. And so that brings us to the call for ideas. So at this point, I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Gabby, to give you some more information on this particular process.
Awesome. Thank you, Asima. So like Asima said, right, we want to expand our free programming on the park into a shared resource for cross city and cross neighborhood collaboration. And that's going to lead us, we think, to a lot of generated public events led by community or in collaboration with you. And so we're starting now. And we're hoping to get everybody onto the park or these ideas potentially activated in October of 24. And so y'all getting the first preview of what Call for Ideas is going to be. So what is Call for Ideas? It's a pilot program where we're encouraging nonprofits and educational institutions to submit their ideas and any type of inspiration you may have on how you would like to activate the High Line as a platform. And we're doing this because the goal is to increase park access, amplify our partners, and our capacity to welcome very diverse programs, which we've learned in the last couple of years, right? The more that you do diverse programming, that's just going to keep on expanding the audiences. And so there's a lot of folks who are going to come from different areas of the city. We have such already a high population of international visitors. And so what a better place to use your ideas and to activate and to bring awareness to what you and your organizations do and be on the High Line. And so we're hoping that this is a way to continue to build trust, relationships, and again, welcome new folks over, or just welcome the local people and New Yorkers in general. And it's also a great way to get our volunteers, and as Asima said earlier, with our teen night, right, our teens involved. And so it's kind of a multi-functioning new program that we're thinking of. And so how do you even know if your program, if your idea is a good fit? And so the internal team went and broke this up into 2 different ways. And so this first slide is really going to go over our non-negotiables, right? You can answer these with either yes or no. And so that's one way to start really thinking about it. Starting with are you an education or a nonprofit institution? And why we chose this is because there's more inclined to be support for the program ideas, both financially and capacity wise. And so we thought this was a great way to start. Next is, can it be held outside? So we are a park, and so we have to intentionally think about climate, we have to intentionally think about weather, and there's certain areas on the park as we go through the presentation, which will be impacted differently. So for example, in certain areas, there can be wind tunnels. And so how can you integrate what you want to do in these spaces is something we have to think about very consciously. Next is safety. And so we're going to put a link in the chat for folks. Please look through that list. And if anything, look, you're like, oh yeah, we can't have fire on the park. So please don't, try not to do an idea with any type of fire. And so there's just these little things, look through that list, see if that works for you as well. Next is if we're free and open to the public. So because we're a public park, that's again sees millions of visitors a year. That includes international, national, local. The majority of our events that we put on in programs and engagement are free. And we know that this helps specifically with families and building relationships and connections across culture and class. And so we're inviting programs that also, are free for the public. Next, does it take advantage of the linear experience? And if some of you have been on the park, there's certain places that are more narrow. And so we really want to consider not only the who, but the how many. And so really thinking about how you can creatively use the different places, which we'll show you later, is also going to play a part in this. Next is there is a priority for, New York City and neighborhood organizations, but we are open to others, including, international orgs and stuff like that. So just to keep all of that in mind.
Gabby,
Moving
for
Yeah,
some
go
reason
ahead.
your screen is cut off on the right. I don't know if you can shift. There we go. Perfect.
Oh, okay, funky. Oh, my bad, everybody. Thank you, Seema. So just rereading those, right? Free and open to the general public. Does it take advantage of the linear experience? Okay, I'm glad we all can see. Next, the next couple considerations are for ideas that are a bit more mission oriented and are open to interpretation in a way. And so, for example, all right, this first one, does the idea align with the Highline's mission to reimagine the role of public spaces and creating more connected and healthy neighborhoods and cities? So for this one, we're really thinking about how does your program idea align with our mission and values, which Seema showed earlier, and center ways that the public creates connection, right? How does that happen both, for the health of our city, for the health of the neighborhood, even thinking out to outer boroughs, for the health of the nation. And so thinking more broadly about those experienced people in place, and connecting it back to the fact that we are a park. So that's one. Right, and the way that we like to think about that first bullet also is specifically we do wellness classes on the park. And so that included Tai Chi, Zumba, Afro-Brazilian dance, and senior stretch. And so we thought, again, they really amplify the fact that they're creating connections and a healthy neighborhood, or at least centering health, excuse me, for the neighborhood and for the city. Next is unique and innovative. For this one, we'd like folks to really think about, has this idea been done before? What's new about it? What is exciting about it? Next, we're going to do, the diverse audiences. So like I keep saying, we mostly have an international audience that are just passerbys and people that walk the park more generally. And we want to make sure that the programs reflect the diversity of this city. And so whatever you do, whatever organization you may come from, this goes into our next bullet point, right? We're really trying to also think about the people who are on the park. And so are they BIPOC, LGBTQIA+, historically underserved communities? How can you use the park as a platform, and bringing in the communities in which you serve here? And so we thought that went perfectly, again, with promoting inclusivity, bringing the audiences in, and using the park as a platform. Next is, does the idea demonstrate the potential to increase awareness about relevant issues or themes impacting our society and world? And so we know there is a lot going on, and we want to take a moment to pause on that and also to reflect on it, to bring awareness to it. And so specifically for this point, relevant issues and themes, we want to be overt, cannot be political or religiously associated. And for example, on that one, right, we're going into 2024, which is going to be a huge electoral year. And so you can't lobby or campaign on the park, but you can advocate for voter registration, right? And so again, bringing awareness by not necessarily having it super focused, politically trying to, because we're a 501(c)(3) and we're a park. I mean, there's much more to that. So just keeping these things all in mind. These are on our website as well if you want to look back to it, and a quick check-off list, which we thought was really helpful. So now that we've gone over through kind of like our criteria, what's next? This is our submission process. It's actually fairly easy, we think, but you know what? That is very subjective. And so if you have any feedback, if you're gonna be doing this, please email us and let us know, because then we become better as well. But you go on the website, there is Apply Now button, you click it, and it's a Google form. On that Google form, we're asking very simply your name, the organization you come from, the event's name that you would want to put on. There's a category list that you can choose from to best describe your activation. So festival, visual arts, this is a winter or fall celebration, it's a performance. And you can click as many as you'd like, but just try to be as specific as possible to what it is that essentially is the event. Next, we're just asking for a short description of the proposal, not the proposal, excuse me, the idea, and your intended audience. If you need any type of financial support, because this is, again, a pilot program, we are anticipating, which we'll go through later, to provide some financial support as it comes to staffing and production, but we cannot fully fund any idea. So we just want to put that out there as transparently as possible. And, we also want to ask why the Highline? Why is this idea good for this place? Why should we be activating the park and collaborating with your organization? Yeah. So we also want to say, the form is open from now all the way to Monday, January 22nd. And so please get in your ideas as soon as you can. And we just, on the spirit of transparency, again, no idea submissions will be used without consent, without approval or partnership with any of the applicants. We do want to caveat, while we are firm in this honor system, there are certain things that the Highline and programs and specifically already does. And so if you look through our archive, our events page, there are things like storytelling that we do, right? We've done participatory budgeting and blah, blah, blah. So keeping that in mind in terms of this honor system, one where we're not using it without consent, but is it something the Highline has already done? I hope that makes sense. Moving on. So what happens after you submit your Google form? It's in there, it's checked. You'll get an email from Call for Ideas saying that, hey, look, we got it, almost like your receipt for it. After which submissions will be assessed by the Highline Review Committee after that January 22nd date. Applicants will be notified whether or not we're moving forward with the idea. And then afterwards, you'll be hearing from me specifically to go and help coordinate a one-on-one meeting with our production teams so that we can kind of advance the idea, go through logistics, make sure everybody's on the same page, right? During this time, we potentially will sign over MOUs, and that will happen again later in spring and summer of 24. So going into this, I'm gonna bring it over to my friend Itai, who's on the call. He's our production manager, and we'll go through what the Highline will provide and will not. Go ahead, Itai.
Thanks, Gabby. Looking forward to seeing all the cool ideas that you guys will submit. So this slide talks a little bit about what the Highline can provide in so much as we're going to collaborate with you guys to activate these ideas. So the first bullet point is communications, assets, and outreach. So we will utilize the Highline's website, our X, formerly known as Twitter, page, and other social media outlets that we use in order to promote the event. That would be a collaborative process that we would work on with you in design. And we also utilize our on-park signage, which takes many different forms, but we like to advertise programs that are coming up just a week in advance, or sometimes even further in advance, to give people a heads up, to try and capture some of that, some of our regular patrons if they're interested in seeing our events or participating. The production department will apply for the relevant permits for your event. Sometimes that can involve other permits besides for the two that are listed here, but the most relevant ones usually are a sound permit and a special events permit. So that is a cost that the Highline is taking on. We would also collaborate with you in that process to get the description for the event, how many folks we plan on inviting, and some of those other details. We can provide photography for your event. We work with a number of photographers throughout the year who photograph not just our events, but just the general life on the park. And they're very talented, and looking forward to sharing that asset with you guys. Obviously, we're providing the spaces on the park themselves. We have a number of different venue spaces, as it were. We'll go through those slides a little bit later in the presentation. That also within that bullet point, it goes without saying that the space will be presented to you clean and ready for your event to go. And that's a part of our regular operation on the park, but obviously with a special eye when we are activating one of the spaces. And the last bullet point talks about some of the audio visual and production support that we would be providing. That includes speakers, mics, production assistants, which are Highline staff, support with loading in and loading out. That point specifically talks about, our freight elevators that you can utilize, electric access, power availability, which each space has its own specific power layout that I can talk through with you guys. We have chairs available. We have 6-foot tables available. And we also can utilize our stanchions on the park to create lines or to, otherwise utilize for these events. So, I just want to make a broader statement in that as we delve further into the ideas that come through, we can talk about exactly how many speakers we can provide to you, what brand they are, what type of microphones, how much staff is needed for the event, and so on and so forth. And I can always provide our current inventory to any folks who are interested in looking at that to help plan their events. So yes, moving right along to the next slide. Thanks, Gabby. There are some things that the Highline cannot provide for your event. I know that the first bullet point can be a little bit confusing, but there are certain parts of the production that we cannot help you with. So outside of the microphone, speakers, and the other things that we can provide, we can't help you design, provide graphic design help necessarily on your promotional materials outside of what we would already put out on our social media websites and so on. Some of the other, parts of producing the event, whether it's fabricating certain elements for your event, we will not be providing any kind of support on that financially. Other staffing, that means perhaps you have a lighting designer that you're bringing in for your event. We cannot help you with that. Videographer, we do not currently plan to provide that, and so there's other staff that you might want to hire that we wouldn't be taking on that cost beyond the production assistants and photographer that we're already planning on providing for you guys. trash removal. Every event should have a plan on how they're going to remove the waste created from the event, and hopefully we can all think about ways to have our elements be as sustainable as possible, which is always a mission that we try to invoke on the High Line. And I can talk to you as we get further into the ideas about different strategies for removing that trash, but utilizing the park's trash is not an option. We always have to think about how can we do that outside of our current infrastructure. We will not be able to provide an overnight load-in. So, a lot of these events will have to be creative in the way that we load in this event, but that overnight load-in, necessitates more staff and more security than what we'll be providing for this initial pilot program. Going right into the next bullet point, if you do need security for your event, that's a decision that you will make alongside the committee that will be helping you through thinking through this event. If you do need to utilize security, we can definitely suggest a vendor that you should use, but we cannot take on that cost, although we can provide estimates. Extra utilities, so beyond the power that we'll provide for you guys that lives on the park, we can't provide a generator to get you extra power, nor can we provide Wi-Fi internet connection for the event, or things like fans or heaters, might be more relevant for the time of year that we're going to be hosting the event. So that's something that you would have to take on the cost to provide. We are not currently planning on providing stipends for the performers or staff that you're working with. In terms of removal of the artwork, that goes right into the trash removal process. So everything that you bring onto the park, you would be responsible for taking off of the park. And so we always have to think about that aspect of it when you're planning. The sort of transportation of your elements that you're utilizing and the eventual installation on the park as well is something that we cannot provide, although we can always make helpful suggestions, and we have partners that we've worked with that we'd be happy to recommend. And yeah, when it comes to film, video, anything that you'd want to capture the event, to utilize for your own portfolios or otherwise, is something that we will not be able to provide as well. So again, as we plan for these events, we can get into all these bullet points a lot further and into more detail. Yeah.
Thanks,
Ethan.
Ethan.
No problem. My pleasure.
I'm just going to jump in here just to cover a few additional considerations for how we're going to be thinking about partner programs. So there are all kinds of other activities that happen on the High Line. So when we look at proposals and ideas, we're going to be thinking about some other things that factor how we make a decision as well about what we can help bring to life on the High Line. One is construction. We've got renovation activities happening at different parts of the park all through the year. We have different areas where adjacent buildings are undergoing construction projects, which require sheds or some kind of structure to be built on the High Line. So we know about some of them well in advance. So of course, we'll let you know about that. Other ones we don't know about. So we have to just keep that in mind as we make decisions about scheduling here. We have a very highly curated public art program, which involves a number of stationary pieces throughout the park, as well as a number of performing arts pieces throughout the year. And so if any of the ideas that are submitted are related to visual arts, we'll have to do that in concert with our chief curator and our curation team to ensure that it's something that we can be putting on and it has a distinct feel and voice that is coming from a different group that is not High Line art. So we just have to think about that curatorial aspect of work related to art. We, as a nonprofit, we do have other ways that we're making money to support operations. And one is that we do rent certain areas of the park out to corporate partners And so if we do have venue rentals in different locations, that might require a late minute change in plan of how we think about a program. But as much as possible, by programming in the fall and into the off seasons for the Highline, we're hoping to minimize those sorts of conflicts. We have food kiosks and a wonderful place to have a beer, all within our Chelsea Market Passage in the summer. That runs from approximately May through October, Itai? Did I get the months? May through October. And so that takes up a good amount of space in one area of our park. So Itai will hit on that when he's talking about some of the spaces that are available for you to consider. And of course, our existing program that I hit on at the beginning of the presentation, when we have that scheduled, as we know of the dates, we are putting those online. So we encourage you to also just look through our website to see if you can see information about past scheduling dates on those. And insurance requirements. So we'll be thinking as we look through the ideas, what is actually feasible through liability, through what we're allowed to support, where we may also need to ask you to bring on additional insurance to ensure that we're covered for any risk to visitors or staff.
Thanks, Asima. Yeah, so at this point in the presentation, we'll be going through some of the spaces that you would be activating with some of these ideas and inspiration. So I can briefly chat about, what some of the electrical capacity is, although I think we can get into those details a little bit later. So the space that you're looking at currently is Gansevoort Plaza. This is our only street level venue space. It is right next door to the Whitney, and actually is right outside of our HQ in our office. This obviously, presents a different kind of, energy for your event. It's not on the park. It's a little bit easier for more elaborate load-ins. For example, if you're utilizing a food truck, that's something that could not come up onto the park, but could very much be placed in our plaza. We do have lighting available here overnight, or rather when the sun goes down. And we also have plenty of electric capacity in this space, and I can inform you whether your needs would be met or if you need a generator in that space. Yeah, moving right along. Above Gansevoort Plaza is our Tiffany Overlook. This is actually the southernmost point in the park. This is where the park essentially begins or ends, depending on the way you look at it. This is a smaller space where we've hosted receptions and dinners in the past. It's a very lovely space to activate and it's very cozy. It provides a little bit more seclusion than other spaces on the park. And I think there are a lot of creative ways that we could activate it. As you move further north in the park, we have 14th Street Passage. This is the first space that we're coming onto on the park that is actually is enclosed. So not fully enclosed, obviously, but you do have a degree of protection from the elements. This space has been utilized in many creative ways throughout the years. It's got a lot of electric capacity, up to 200 amps available. You can activate one side of the passageway while allowing free passage for the patrons on the other side. We also have a special feature within this space, which is a projector, which could be utilized for events as well.
And I want to just plug in real quick, Itai,
Please,
right?
Gabby.
In the past, we've done performances in this space, we've done panels, we've done our family workshops, educational workshops, panels. I said panels twice, so it's extra in there. But just to give you all some context of how we lighten it up in here.
That's well said, Gabby. We hosted two different very successful and special dance performances here just this past year. And yeah, is one of the spaces that I think lends itself to those kind of performances here on the park. Yeah, and as you continue walking north virtually, you come on to Chelsea Market Passage. This is one of the most popular spaces on the park to activate. Um, as Asima mentioned, we do have a food and beverage program, which runs from May up until the end of October. In this space, on the east side of the passage that you're looking at, we have 7 different food vendors, which activate their food kiosks. You know, that does not mean that you cannot host an event in this space. You actually have the second half of the passage to the north, which is completely open. As Asima mentioned, I think our really one of the stars of our performances that we put on and events that we put on is Ariba. It's the most well-attended event. We had upwards of 700 people in this space alongside the food kiosks. So that's very much not an inhibitor. I think I would encourage all of you to think of creative ways that you can actually utilize those vendors. And obviously we can talk about that in further detail. Yeah, so right adjacent to Chelsea Market Passage in the lower passageway, we have a space called the Porch. This space during the food and beverage program, when that's running, is actually where Asima mentioned that you can grab a beer. We have a restaurant that's housed there called Hearth. Otherwise is a very special space that is essentially right above the street. Folks can actually see it very well when you're walking along 10th Avenue there. So, you know, if you have an interesting display that you're thinking about installing on the park, that could have a huge impact in this space, as well as, you know, a ready-made kind of reception space for you. Yeah. And so that, you know, Chelsea Market Passage, it's important to note, is between 15th and 16th Street on the park. As you continue to walk further north, the park becomes a lot skinnier, for lack of a better word. And so that's really the point of the park where we encourage folks to keep on moving. There aren't a lot of opportunities for activations in those spaces. But as you actually get to the north of the park, we have this great space, which you're looking at right here, which is called Coach Passage. This is on 30th Street between 10th and 11th Avenue. It is also covered, so can provide you that extra coverage from the rain if that's something that we want to consider for your event. We also have ample electric access here. And, you know, the linear experience of this passageway is something worth noting, where you can activate different parts of this passageway, you know, and create a sort of experience for your the patrons attending your event or your idea. And there's lots of different ways to make good use of the space there. As you walk further east, you come up onto the spur. This was a extension of the park that was built in 2019. What you're seeing in the slide is actually an art piece that has since been deinstalled. And what we have there right now is a beautiful bright neon tree called Old Tree. I think that you actually could see it in some of the slides earlier. But this is a beautiful open space. We've hosted different types of events here. One of the highlights being a poetry reading event, which we did right underneath the sculpture Old Tree. As you can see, we have the seating steps that can be utilized as a makeshift stage or a place for your audience to sit. It's important to note so that you guys know that we also have 3 different public bathrooms on the park, you know, which, you know, people can utilize. This being the location of the last one on the park, but those facilities are available wherever you are. Yeah, so, you know, a lot of the events that we've hosted in the past can be used as inspiration, but obviously we encourage you guys to take a walkthrough of these spaces. We will be available to show them to you, or you can come by the park anytime. And they're really blank and open canvases for you guys to do whatever you think is best. Yeah.
Beautiful. Thank you, Ty. Now we wanted to open it up for folks. You can put it in the chat or you can unmute yourselves. So yeah, if anybody has any questions in terms of us sharing this information, majority of it will be on our website in terms of what Itai was sharing on the capacity of each space. We're really looking for people just to submit their ideas, and then during that one-on-one time, we can go over the capacity, or if you email us directly at Call for Ideas, we can let you know how much is there in each space. For example, right, Spur can hold over 150 versus in other spaces, it's a smaller amount. And so if that's something that you're interested in, please email us and we can get you a more of a direct number. Go ahead, Yoni. I hope I'm saying your name correctly as well.
Yeah, thank you for this presentation and invitation. I have a few questions, but maybe I'll start with would an activation be something that is one-off or potentially a recurring thing? And if it is the option for recurring, is there an option for storage?
Okay. Asima, do you want to take on the first half and then storage, Itai?
Sure. So in terms of recurring, again, you know, I feel like we're going to say this a lot. It's really going to depend on the idea. We're looking to encourage as many partnerships as possible. So in general, a one-off is going to be easier for us to program and activate and find space for. If it is something like a series and each one appeals to a different audience, for example, perhaps that's something we would consider and get into conversation with you. So you know, I'd encourage you to propose something that could be a one-off, but that you can mention that you're interested in it being a series.
And Yoni, to address the second question about storage, unfortunately, as we come up against every day, we don't have enough room for the stuff that we currently have within our regular operations. So beyond a very special exception, in general, we would not be able to store anything on the park long term, even for a series.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Ella?
Hi, I'm sorry. There's music outside if anyone can hear. First off, thank you for the presentation. I thought it was incredibly informative. And I'm on the advisory board for an education center that's providing accessible resources for young professionals. And I have an idea that I'm going to submit. But before that, I'm just curious about the forum for Call for Ideas and what you guys did previously to get ideas and activations on the Highline.
Yeah, so I can go into that historic piece. So before COVID, the structure of programs and engagement looked totally different than what it is today. Now we activate ourselves where we have 4 departments within us. So community engagement, education, Highline Art, and the Highline Network. And before it was a team of maybe like 5 people that were just called public programs. And so we've taken that switch because I think there's definitely a specialty that happens with each of the departments currently. And so with that, we're now doing a lot more activations off the park because there's been post-COVID, we'll put that in quotations, more visitors back there, right? And we're talking about the narrowness of the park and how it's already so busy. And so we've been meeting partners where they are. And now we're like, okay, there's a little bit more space and some room and flexibility in bringing back the public programs or the partnership programs onto our spaces. And so that's how it kind of made the switch, if that it's very nuanced and kind of gray, but that's how we made it, I guess, more now.
And
Thank you.
I'll just add on to that we have people, you know, groups, organizations, individuals approach us throughout the year saying, I've got this great idea. I want to put this on the Highline. And so Gabby and I really wanted to create a more structured process for us to intake those ideas and to make decisions about how we put that up. That frankly is more equitable. Also, it's not just who gets in front of us first.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for quenching the curiosity. I love seeing the process of collaborations. Thanks.
Anybody else? No, no pressure. Here's our contact info. Again, I'm Gabby, I'm the programs manager. Asima's on here. Itai is production. Rebecca's on here. Vanilla, our favorite IT person. And so this team's come together with our comms to help make this come to life. And so if you have anything specific you want to ask, please email us and we'll do our best not to leave you in the inbox. And we'll get answering as quickly as possible. So I see one in the chat. In terms of funding, he's responsible for. Okay, yes. So this is a question just on funding. Organizations would be responsible for their own activation beyond the space, basic technical needs, marketing, and the day of photography. Yes, that is correct. And so everything outside of that will be on the organization. That will include, again, your staffing. If you need the videographer, if you need third-party security, all those things will be at your cost. You're welcome.
I'm just going to add, because I'm not sure if we were clear enough about this, like we really want your ideas. It doesn't have to be completely formulated. You don't have to know which space you want it in. You don't have to have figured out the funding for it yet. Like our idea is really to just imagine something alongside you. So when Gabby talks about that timeline being that, you know, we're going to be reviewing it and then we're going to start having conversations with you to bring it to life. So it really is about a process. It's not about making hard decisions at the end of this. It's really just us getting like a repository of incredible partners and incredible ideas to help us move them forward.
Well said, Asima. Sweet. So if you have our email, please send us anything. I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. We thank you all for being here with us today. Again, we're gonna take this video, we're gonna put it on YouTube so folks can have access there. Welcome, Jordan. And again, we're on LinkedIn. Our website's gonna be activated. The point of storage, we're gonna add that to our FAQ. So thank you, Yoni. That was a great question. But yeah, we hope everybody has a great day. Stay safe, stay well. And we hope to see your idea in the form.